Well, good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, wherever you may be listening to us from. This is Curtis Witt, and I'm here with Power Networker extraordinaire Robin Mansell. Good afternoon, Robin.
Good afternoon, Curtis.
How are you this week?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Excellent, thank you. So we got a great one today. We're going to be talking a little bit, and we're in our fourth week, fourth of 5 weeks, about digital networking. So we've touched on it. We've hit the fringes of digital networking through all of our other three modules. But this week we get an opportunity to really deep dive into digital networking. So as we always talk about, we did the introduction of what we're going to talk about. Important things to remember. I will remind you, if this is your first time listening here, remind you that, or just tell you and remind those who are here again that this format is a little different. We are teaching in the form of a dialogue, like the Socratic method, and asking questions of our, if you would, our power networking guru, Robin Mansell. And as she's answering the questions, there she's answering them from her vast experience and her treasure trove of goodies that she brings to the table as it relates to being a serial 30-year plus entrepreneur and having been very, very successful in what she does. And so we want to be able to tap into that, not from a static academic standpoint, but from a practical application. Here's what I'm doing. Here's what I do that's really successful. Here's what I'm doing. And here's what I'm not doing, quite honestly. And here's where I think I could even improve. And so Robin has been very honest with us over this course of three, and she will continue to be very forthright and frank about what she does and what works for her. So and we certainly appreciate that. So things to remember. Community rules, they're in the school. You know what they are as it relates to courtesy and professionalism, etc. How to get help, just DM us for help and support. All right, here we go, Robin. Virtual networking's best practice. So you had mentioned last week that you had been on for, basically, you got a 14-year anniversary from Facebook, and so uh, optimizing your online presence over the years. How has that worked for you in terms of crafting and optimizing your online presence?
One word: consistency.
Consistency. Okay.
You really have to pick a lane, and in the beginning, you're probably trying numerous social media platforms to find out which one works best for you. Um, and when you do figure that out, and it takes a moment because there's a lot of changes that go on online, you want to be consistent with that platform and don't let up on it. So
Hmm.
you got to figure out what works for you and do that. So that's really how you're going to optimize that, is consistently showing up.
Okay. And I imagine that that impacts the effectiveness of your online communication as well.
Yeah, and so what is it, it ties into the consistency is what image are you presenting to the world or the platform. uh, you want to make sure that your messaging is very clear.
Okay.
What do you stand for? What do you talk about? Very authentic. Consistency, authenticity. Those are things that really help a lot with your effective online communication.
Okay. Excellent. And what about, I mean, from a video and, participating in webinars, what's your, virtual events, online networking platforms and things of that nature? For you, what have you found to work best for you?
So when you say leveraging video calls, are you talking about Zoom?
Zooms, like, yes,
Okay.
things of that.
Yeah, Zooms can be, so it can be very difficult to get people all in one place at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So using, I probably do about 50-50 now of video calls, get on them because you can use that tool um, in multiple ways in areas that you might not be able to get to. It's really been a nice added value to the whole idea of networking, that you can get people across the country that you possibly may be able to have some type of connection or collaboration with. So video calls, you know, they got a lot of different names for them nowadays, can be very beneficial, very.
When you are on a seminar or a workshop or a webinar, mostly webinars, let me just stick with webinars and virtual events, how much do you, what's your feeling about that? Is it learning opportunities for you? Do you network opportunities? How do you handle those things? Because I know you sent me some information the other day. In fact, you sent me the pictures of the slides that was going on in those things. So, how much do you, raise your hand and participate, and how much do you, what's your balance?
It really depends on what you're looking to gain there. It can depend on whether it's your first time there. I literally was on one today. And going back to our previous lessons, you're actually doing active listening there because you need to find out exactly what is the premise of, sometimes they'll have a name, but there could be a networking opportunity there, but you got to do a lot of, you're going to listen to find that out first. So again, just like when we talked about going to the other, like how to choose, I think in our last lesson, we talked about how to choose different networking events. Online, you could be on an online one 3 to 5 times a week, to be quite honest. There's so many of them, and it gives you an opportunity to find out whether it's a fit, just like if you were in person. The only difference is you obviously are doing it from the comfort of your home, but you've got to do a lot of active listening to figure it out.
Is there any criteria that you use that to whittle things down? Do you have a certain formula at all? And the reason why I asked that is you said you could be on 3 to 5 a day. That's a lot of time.
No, 3 to 5 a week. I'm sorry, I apologize.
Okay.
3 to 5 a week.
Okay, and you may have said a week, and I may have not heard you. But okay, 3 to 5 a week. Okay, but the question still stands: is there any formulaic criteria? How do you determine which ones garner your attention and you're going to actually attend versus I don't think I need that?
So I have, being in the renewable energy space, which is actually a lot of in the construction space, I'm actually going to be on one that's a construction networking. It'll be my first time, but I know that there's a lot of contractors on there, electricians, and those are really good strategic partners for my business. So I won't know until I'm on it, but I looked at that and saw it said construction and trades, and I thought, well, you know what, let me get on here and see what it is, what it's like. It'll be my first time, so I don't know. And then there are some that are doing hybrids, where you can be in person. If you can't make it in person, then you can just get on the Zoom. I personally don't think people take as much advantage of these programs as they should. And you, just like the in-person networking, sometimes you don't know. I mean, if they were saying, flat out, if they said, oh, this is a how to make tie-dye T-shirts. Well, I mean, that doesn't fit for me. You can tell by the title sometime, and they'll give a description whether or not it's something that is in your space. And so you have to really kind of sort through to see what it is. But if it's close to your sphere of influence, then yeah, absolutely, try it and see what it looks like.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. All right. So that gives us some parameters around virtual networking best practices. Let's talk a little bit about online communities, and we're going to dive deep into social media mastery as well as email mastery. But identifying relevant communities. I know Facebook is your thing. You are also moving obviously into you do a smattering of the others, as well as you're moving headstrong into LinkedIn. But identifying relevant communities, for you, that would be obviously relevancy would include renewable energy in any form. But can you talk how people could possibly, have that type of, how they identify it for themselves?
So again, in the beginning, you really are testing it to see what's going to work. Like we've heard, TikTok is popular, but when you look at the chart, they're not the most popular.
Right.
But for some people, they get a lot of attraction from that. Marketing is really just attraction marketing. That's actually the right word. It's attraction marketing, what you attract. And so what works for one person may not work for another. Like Instagram, what's interesting about Instagram for me is that I don't get a lot of likes, or it's likes or hearts, I guess they call it. I don't get a lot of that, but I have got business off of Instagram, and I've gotten business when I'm commenting on something. Like for me, what works there is for me to just comment on things that I have a strong opinion about. And typically say that again, Curtis?
You say, I was agreeing. Okay.
Yeah. And what people do is they always go look at your profile. Okay. Well, on my profile, it says what I do, renewable energy, and I literally just met a electrician, and which is a strategic partner, and she's in Houston, and she works with developers, and so now we're going to partner on some deals. That literally just happened today.
Wow.
And I don't even think I post on Instagram. I know for a fact I don't post there once a week. I know I don't. But I do engage there. So Instagram has become more like my calling card.
Right.
Because people are going to go there. Look, so I'm giving you guys those examples because you really have to test these out to see what works for you. And again, you've got to be consistent when you figure out which one is giving you what you need. Like there's no quick, fast way to really build your network. Like you said, Curtis, I've been on social media for 14 years. You're gonna build a network if you're anywhere consistently.
Right.
So the number one thing to do is to get started and then kind of test it around a little bit. Like I don't like the things that post for you, because even if it posts, like I sometimes use a scheduling tool, but even if I use it, I still got to go back and respond to those people.
That is true.
So the biggest thing with, I think, any of these social platforms is that you need to, you've got to add value, what we talked about again. You've got to be able to contribute. You've got to network within those communities. Those are the things you have to do in order to build a relationship. You've got to go on there. They've got to see you. You've got to participate. You got to have some conversations. Not all conversations are even great or agreeable even. Like I've had people that we disagreed on something, but we saw that there was some value in us working together. Is how I found another developer who's doing about 500 apartments because we were disagreeing on something. And we kept it civil, and he ended up calling me about working on his project.
Excellent. That is great. So it's interesting because through what you just said, you've literally covered all at least topics 1 through 4. You talked about being active and participating. You don't post much, but you engage. You talked about obviously networking within those communities and making a contribution and value adding, to the conversation, if you would, and those allow you to get business.
Well, even respect and professionalism, like the guy I told you, we didn't agree, but we kept it very respectful. There was no insulting going on, and a lot of people do that. They tend to, I don't know, it gets a little crazy in these social media streets, but we kept it very professional. And then the next thing you know, we were on a phone talking about his 500 apartments that he's building.
Wow. So you really never know.
No, we just had a disagreement in how something would be handled, and we disagree on that, but it was very, like I said, it was very friendly engagement.
Right. Nice. Very nice. All right. So as we transition from we were your best practices, and then looking at, okay, let's narrow this down. So you got these large best practices up here, if you would, the meta guidelines, and then you narrow this down to some principles as it relates to your online community, being active, participating, networking within the community, and adding some value, and obviously being respectful as well as professional. You can agree to disagree, so to speak. Social media mastery, and this is one that again you really excel at. So choosing the right platform, content strategy, and consistency. You've talked about these, but let's just hit them really quick. Choosing the right platform for you, and not you, Robin, but for our teammates. Choosing the right platform. What advice would you give them?
In the beginning, test them all.
Test.
You got to test it. You got to, just like back in the day, and probably still now with your marketing campaigns, a lot of times they would do these marketing campaigns, and they would use there's a name for it, where they would change the wording, but put it out there, and then they would be able to tell which one gave the best results. I'm big on organic and authentic things you hear me say all the time, meaning I don't pay for ads or even in my social media. Like, I just don't. I like to, I guess guerrilla marketing, I guess they would call it. I like to build relationships with people. So when you do those platforms, there's a lot of talk about, like I said, you could do ads and you could get all these followers and things, but I don't think it's the number of followers that you have on the platform as much as it is the right people. I'd rather just communicate with the right 100 people than 100,000 people, because 100,000 people typically, unless you've got some product, like typically in beauty or fashion, that they're going to, all be buying. in the service industry, it, and again, it just depends on what it is. I see people all the time that have 2 million followers, and they don't even get 10% responding to their posts.
Wow.
So the numbers are, I just think the numbers are irrelevant. Now, there's people that would argue with that, and that's fine. That's really what this is about. You and I talked about this earlier. You have to figure out what works for you. Don't get misled by people telling you that you should do it a certain way. I'm giving you my experience and what has worked for me, and you still got to figure out what I'm giving you. I'm kind of guiding you down the road, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you still have to decide what you want that to look like. What kind of car are you going to drive down the road? But I'm telling you that this is the direction you need to go, and these are the areas that you should pay attention to. And so you're going to have to test it, especially if you're just getting involved in it. You've got to give it a test, and then you've got to be consistent with it. Your content, you've got to play with that to see a little bit about, well, what does that look like? What is it that I'm doing that I'm getting the most engagement? What is it that people like about me when I post? You can then pay attention to how many people are commenting, and then go from there. But you've got to, if you're in the beginning. Now, let's say you're already on social media, you kind of have an idea. So what you want to get in the habit of doing is posting with a purpose.
Ah, okay.
Right? You and I talked about this today, a friend of ours. What's the purpose of that post?
Right.
I mean, it's not, I hate to use this word because I don't want to insult people, like it's not it's not rocket science, but it is just getting to know yourself, take yourself offline, but you're going to be online, and think about what would your interaction be with people in person.
Right.
So take what you would do in a live networking and then put it on Facebook. And you're not, or any other social media, but you're not going to, what people need to know is you don't want to spam people with the same thing. Like, isn't your personality different? And then things like asking questions, people like to answer questions. You'll notice your engagement goes up quite a bit when you ask people questions.
And that's really interesting because it's the general question to the forum, and then people engage, and then all of a sudden, there's a lot of back and forth, and you could do that a couple of times a week and really cement yourself, one, as a thought leader, two, in the starting to build your tribe as a leader of the tribe.
Absolutely. And they all have, well, I know that Facebook has where you can do surveys. Mm-hmm. And something I just saw on Instagram is you can ask a question and then it'll show you, people can vote. That's a new tool that they have. People can vote, and you can ask a question, do you agree with this or not agree with it? And then they can go in the comments and go a little bit further with it. Again, you got to figure out what works for you. You could frame it to the business that you're in. Are you good? For me, I could say, hey, have you thought about are you likely or unlikely to get solar panels? Are you likely or unlikely to get an electric vehicle? And then you can kind of see what people, but I think that it's the engagement is what's so important, because a lot of people are on there just for fun. You gotta be able to sort and see who your audience is.
Who's being entertained versus
Absolutely.
Who's in the financial realm. That is
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I heard one of our favorite authors, I think it's one of yours too, Mark Manson of the Subtle Art, and he said that he was really impressed with Gen X. I think it's Gen X. Is that, I don't know if that's a 20-year-old. I thought that was millennial, but he said 20-year-olds. That he was talking to them, and he was really impressed with the way they were thinking. That he wasn't thinking like that when he was that age. And it reminded me that when I look at my analytics and my insights, the majority of my followers are millennials and Gen X.
Interesting.
And I'm a boomer. So that's interesting.
What insight do you take from that? What would you hypothesize is going on?
They are also mostly their percentage is higher in males. I think that it's kind of like maybe I remind them of, maybe like a mother or aunt. A lot of people say that aunt, somebody that kind of. But no matter what people say, a lot of people like straight shooters. They like people that they know. Oh, she's gonna say it. Like, she's not gonna sugarcoat it. They feel like I like people who say what I'm not comfortable saying that. Even if it's not rude or anything, sometimes people just are not comfortable talking about how they feel.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for whatever reason, that's been my analytics. It's been it for that way for a long time, that younger males tend to gravitate to my posts.
Interesting. Very interesting. It'd be interesting for you to do some deeper survey to see, why for them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just something interesting.
Yeah.
But one thing's for sure, you have a raving fans following for sure around in your social media mastery. So anything, you mentioned analytics and insights, which, a lot of people don't look at their analytics and insights, and so they don't know who they should be talking to, who is their real base. And that's very important, because once you understand that, you understand the voice that you have. And when you understand the voice that you have, you can amplify that.
Yeah. Well, and it can change depending upon what it is that you do. I've noticed mine has changed somewhat because of the industry that I'm in.
Right.
But if you keep your personality intertwined in there, you may not get as much interaction when you're talking about that particular business. But when I am just talking about being me, then yeah, I get the interaction. And then at some point they tend to come around. I'm not in a quote unquote sexy industry. So, and it's an industry that a lot of people are not as familiar with right now. So yeah, that's why I have to keep interacting with everyone based on like current events, sports, certain things like that, because that's what got me here in the first place, is me just being myself. And so now I can kind of interject the business that I have, and I will get referrals that way, but it does change a little bit.
Absolutely. And you talked about adaptability. You have to adapt to your marketplace.
Yeah, your audience. Yeah, you do.
Audience. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about emailing and email networking. I throughout this 5 week or 4 weeks so far, and 5th week coming up next week, we talk about, just touch on like little personal stuff. And I will touch on the fact that we send emails back and forth, and we get lots of introductions through email. Oh, I'll introduce you through email. So, and you do a lot of that. So crafting an engaging subject line. How is that? Is that like from a networking perspective? Is that important? What's your thoughts about it?
Think about what would I open? Like, what is that headline? Like the subject line. What would get me to open it? Now, in my industry, if it says solar, if it says renewable energy, if it says, and sometimes if it says collaboration, if it says sale, probably not going to open it because, and I look at the emails to see if I recognize the sender also. You can tell most of the time that the subject line, people aren't doing a really good job with that because you can tell if they're trying to sell something. So I might put in mine, hello from Robin, so that's like the first thing that they see. Met you last week, things like that I don't want them to delete automatically because they think it's, spam or something. So
Right.
I don't give it I do give it some thought, but it kind of depends on who I'm actually sending it to also.
I find it interesting. You said, met you last week. It's something. It sounds as if it's a natural for you to put something personal in the message.
Yeah, like uh, I just sent one to this guy, and I said, met you at SoFi Stadium.
Yeah.
So I try to get something that's going to grab their attention without them thinking it's spam.
Right. Right.
Because typically with email, if and I don't guess it depends on theirs, it'll sometimes say, it'll tag it, do you know this person? Because
Hmm.
there's so much of that phishing stuff going on, so they'll ask. So I try to get something there so that they will at least look at it or open it.
Right. Right. I don't recall professional signature lines in emails. How
Mhm. I
you
have one.
you
Yeah.
have one, right?
I have one.
What does yours say?
It just has my name, my title, my email, and obviously my email, but my phone number. Some
Okay.
people have a catchy slogan. I think I did have a catchy slogan before. I don't right now, but I think like my friend's, her says, forward thinking. Um, I haven't. I think I used to have one, but I don't have one now.
So I find it very interesting, that at first I was like, that may or may not be important, but then when you start thinking about real estate, and
Mhm.
there's a saying that people in sports use, if the if you are an antagonist and the person that's receiving may be saying something like, I'm taking up a lot of space in that person's head. You- and so when you think about that tagline at the bottom, that's the last thing that literally a person reads, and
Yeah, it is.
it can be very profound for the day for that person, or it can lead to that person having a certain perception of you.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I think again that what I would hope most people get out of this is that um, figure out what works for you, and then we're kind of doing this is like a buffet. I'm just someone who's been doing this for a long time, but I laid out this really nice buffet for you, and you're going to pick from it what works for you. I'm not a I'm a really flexible type of person. Like I had a guy talking about setting up my LinkedIn. I have a LinkedIn account and I have some really good followers on it, and I've done well on it. And the person was like, "Oh, you need to change your profile, and you need it." And I'm thinking like, my profile is fine. What are you talking about? But I know that that's his. You know, I'm thinking to myself, well, what are you going to do with my profile? Like make it look like AI or something? There's nothing wrong with my profile.
Right.
So I want to see people find what works for them. Like, don't try to be like everybody else. I don't even look at people's profile. I mean, I don't look at it like that. I'm not looking at your picture and going, oh, that's a cheap looking picture. Really? I don't know. I just think people really have to figure out, for me, and it's so funny because people that know me know I've been saying this for years. I've been using the word authentic before it became popular.
Right.
Because I found that I was able to have success just being myself. And so that if there were anything that I was really trying to get people to get out of this is really take the time to figure out who you are, what works for you, and do that. This is just a guide,
Perfect. Anything on follow-up emails that you want to talk about?
Well, here's the thing too. I love emails. The reason I love email is because I can do in an email and reply in 30 seconds that if I got you on the phone, it could be a 30-minute call. And I don't have 30 minutes.
Right.
So in business, let's just say in business. And so, I mean, I don't do emails with my mom. I don't do emails with my dad. But in business, I like emails. It is the most efficient to me, in my opinion. It's extremely efficient because it's in writing, and then you have a paper trail of what you discussed.
Right.
And then I create folders. I love email. I have to say, and I've heard people say that it's, what percentage of people actually open them. Well, if you're doing business with me, I suggest you open them.
That's for sure. That is for sure.
Right?
Absolutely. Did you open my email?
Yeah. Well, you know how I am about that. I don't, and here's the thing, I don't even have the notifications on my phone because I'm not anal about it. But if you know you're waiting for a contract, if you know that you're waiting for some information, at least check your email consistently.
Right.
And if it's an urgent thing, like I think I can see in my notifications, but I don't have it dinging. Like people would have it ding ding every time. No, I don't do all that. But I think for efficiency, oh gosh, I love emails.
Absolutely. And I know you do, and I know you really leverage the power of emails for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, they work for me. That's all. I would never this is so funny you bring this up because email I love and I check. Voicemails, forget about it.
Right. So forget about it.
Yeah, forget about it.
And the great thing is some people, they will send things to voicemail because that's their preferred mode of communication.
Yeah.
Right?
Not mine, though. Not mine. If you call me and I don't answer the phone, you need to text me.
Right.
Don't leave me a message. I might not get that thing until they say that my mailbox is full.
I can't reach you, Robin. I can't leave a message for you because your mailbox is full. Text. Absolutely. Yeah. So blogging and sharing content. I don't know. I know you were doing some blogging at one point, but you share a lot of content. Quite a bit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about choosing relevant topics, or how you choose for you relevant topics. Is it just all on renewable energy, or how do you balance? A little bit of that.
Yeah, I even always say that my posts are very random. Like a comedian, you know how comedians, they'll hear something or something happen in their family, and that's what they'll post. Like I posted today that I just realized I'm a baby boomer who never got spanked. It's literally just random, and I guess it wasn't so random because some friends were talking about, spanking. Adult friends were talking about having, if they got spanked when they were kids and things like that, and I went, oh wow, I never got spanked. And you should see the comments on this thing. Like, I mean, it's still going. Yeah.
I'm curious. Was that the girl effect, the only girl effect? Did the boys in the family get spanked?
Yeah, my brothers did, except my youngest brother. My youngest brother, something happened when he was like 3 or 4, and he told my mom he didn't like anybody hitting on him, and my mom said, well, then you get it. Don't do anything that would get you in trouble, and he never did.
Wow.
It was that simple for him. It like clicked immediately.
It clicked immediately. No bad behaviors, no hands on me.
None. He never did anything that he wasn't supposed to do, ever. I think he just was yeah, he just never did. Those other two, though, yeah, they got, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, so.
Let's talk about the quality of the content creation.
And it all ties in with what, we said, consistent, relevant. What's relevant to you? What's relevant to you? Like, let's talk about this. Let's get real honest, because you and I had a disagreement about whether social media and posting was even valuable. Remember? Remember that?
I think it's valuable from a business perspective.
But remember you thought,
yeah,
we had a disagreement about that. And what I'm saying is what's relevant to you, but what became relevant to you when it clicked for you is when you connected it to your grandchildren.
Yes.
And you connected it to your parents and not having pictures from a fire or a flood. I forget, it was a fire or flood?
Right. Yep.
And that changed you.
That became relevant.
Right. Bingo. That's my point. When it becomes relevant to you, when it becomes authentic, that was authentic. That was when I heard you tell that story. I went, oh, wow, I never heard that story before, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you got to force it, and I know a lot of people are forcing it, I just don't think it's as easy to get up every morning and say something. Like, I like to take pictures, so I post one of my pictures that I take with my phone.
Right.
I take nature pictures, and I probably could put a book together of all the nature pictures I've taken throughout the 14 years for sure. So what's relevant to you? So you're getting to create and make it mean something. Like, do you post just to post? Like, I saw somebody today, they said, oh, I just picked up 1,000 new followers and this and that. And I'm like, I don't even pay attention to how many people follow me. I'm not really doing it for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tool.
Right. Absolutely. It is definitely a tool. And like you said, it's all about relevancy.
Mm-hmm.
And because as you aptly stated, it clicked for me when I thought about, I have no pictures, not like you can't go to a family album with us because we lost them all. And so, but having something in the ether, the good news is forever, and the bad news is it's forever.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, I even I posted my dad and my grandmother and my uncle who died when he was 30. He would be like 80 He'd be 85 right now.
Hmm.
And I have pictures, and I posted that. So I post pictures of my grandfather when he found his brothers. When so that is like a little piece of you,
Right.
and you're sharing it with those who. I those are the things I like to see when and so yeah, it has relevance for me.
Right.
And so that's what I think. And then the engagement and the feedback that I get is you know the people that are really getting something out of it. Like if you're intentional. I did a post, a young lady was sitting in her car. She did she did a video, and I can't remember what platform. But she said, I feel like I'm working for no reason. She was sitting in her car. She goes, I don't know, what are you guys doing? I don't feel like I'm making enough money. And she's like young, like 20, in her 20s or something. And I said, hey, I would recommend that you get off social media, that you take a few days to yourself, and you write down what you want your life to look like, feel like, be like. What does that mean to you? What is just step away from the chaos of everything. And I was trying to like help her. She's young, and I thought, oh, let me, say something that can be beneficial. That comment got over 1,200 hearts.
Wow.
And people said to me in the comments, I needed that today. I needed to hear that. So that's what I like about social media. I don't like the spreading of negative things or showing private moments of people. It's just so inauthentic to me. Why is the camera there? It's like, why is that part I just can't get with. But I think it's an opportunity to be social. It's an opportunity to be social, not fake, but social.
So here's a really interesting part of what you hold a balance. How Here's the balance. The balance in some form is I'm talking about what I do
Mm-hmm.
professionally, and I am being authentic in me personally, and
Yeah.
what's relevant to me, what how I how I'm viewing the perception of the world for myself, and making what how do you strike that balance? I mean,
Um,
do you have like, oh, this day I'm gonna post like this? I know you don't, but
no,
how do you strike
it's
that balance?
so random. So every day I post because I do post good morning. That's like my every day. I post good morning, and it's a picture of some place I've been, and I post it. I don't post other people's pictures. It's typically a picture that I posted. So that's what's authentic to me, and that's what I've become known for. Is why you have a really good eye for photography. Okay, I like nature anyway. I literally stop my car to take pictures.
Hmm.
So something that I like that much, I share it with everybody because I think we don't, but I can't tell people what to do. Maybe it's not authentic for them. I think when I walk outside, I'm looking for something. I don't know. I could probably seen it, but the mountains that are over here by me, like the mountains, they're like sometimes they're capped, and I take pictures of that all the time. I never get sick of it. Or the sunset, or I don't know, it's just a thing. It's become more of a thing. And I remember I was at my mom's in North Carolina, and we were driving up, and I said, stop the car. And it was like the sky was purple. And I took a picture, and then when I went to my mom's, I said, hey, do you ever just sit here at sunset and take pictures? oh my God, you have this, and each day, each evening, it was a different shot.
Wow.
So you kind of get known for the things that are important to you, again, relevant. And then when you talked about engagement and feedback, I think it's courteous. I go back because you get notifications. I go back to my post to make sure I have acknowledged every person that took the time to write on my post.
Nice. Why is that? What is that a respect thing? Is it courtesy? Is
It's courtesy. I think it's a courtesy. They took the time to come to your page and make a comment. It would be like ignoring a person. Now, I don't, you don't have to take it so far, because I have had people that, there are people that take it personal if you don't like a post of theirs or something. I don't know. That's a whole other thing. But for me, that's just my thing. If they take the time to comment, I am going to go back. It might be 2 or 3 days later, but I make sure they are seen.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
That's just one of my rules. That's one of my core beliefs, I guess you'd call it.
So as it relates to sharing content, any other nuggets that you want to share that you do as a best practice for yourself?
Mix it up a little bit. I mix it up. I have kids. I have granddaughters. I have events. I'm not looking at, and I think I heard Gary V say this, Gary Vaynerchuk. Stop looking for the likes. Stop looking for that. Like, genuinely do what you do and post, and then, go from there. Like, I don't delete posts typically. Unless, not like, I won't delete it because nobody commented. I'll leave it there. But I know the algorithm works different too. So if I say something that's a little deep, then I think they steer it away, to be quite honest. But I do. I think they do. And I don't want to offend anyone, but I'm big on facts. Facts. I'm not, when I do get into, and I don't want to call them confrontations, but when I do get into discussions with people or dialogue, I just want to hear the facts about what you're talking about. I don't really care about your feelings. I just want to know what are the facts about that. Because you can feel however you want to feel, but what are the facts?
Right. Absolutely. And I find that is really missing in today's equation.
It's just because you can say something doesn't mean you should. And just because you think it doesn't mean it matters.
Or that you shouldn't say it.
I just, like, some of it is really some keyboard gangster stuff going on. It's mean, and I don't know what made you say that. Kind of thing. Like, I'm pretty, I'm been called a truth whisperer and things like that, but it's only I think it sometimes come off wrong, but it's because I don't really I just tell the truth the way I just speak it the way that it is. And sometimes people really don't like it. I don't sugarcoat it. That's the word I was looking for. I don't necessarily sugarcoat it. But I think people know there's enough of me out there where I have, with my granddaughter cooking food, that they're like, oh, she's not like one-sided. She's got a whole lot of different parts to her. So I think I can get a pass with some people, or some people you're not going to get it, period, no matter what you do. Like the people that come to your page when you say something they've never come on there before. Now all of a sudden you're offended about something. Really? But you didn't say anything about all the nice things I did. But it's just a lot of social media is human nature.
Right.
So
Right.
you gotta figure it out what you want it to look like. What do you want that to look like?
And that was the advice, truly, in its totality, that you gave the young lady. What do you want it to look like?
Mm-hmm.
Every aspect of it.
Everything from when you wake up in the morning to when you go to bed at night. What does that feel like to you? Because it isn't always the money, and I know that's the core of everything. And, like even people think, oh, you just chasing. I'm not chasing anything. I'm really doing what I've been wanting to do for the last decade. And I'm not chasing it at all. I really have found significance and impact. So.
Wow. Well, this one was a little shorter than others, but I think it was valuable in terms of the nuggets that you brought to the table related to all the things. So let's talk about this week.
Oh, that's good. I know already. This week, okay, so last week I believe I sent you to do some networking, right?
Yep.
Okay. Now I want you to craft your message. And what I mean by that is, like, what do you think you represent? And I want you to post with intention. Like a lot of people that I know, they can't even post once a day. So I want you to at least post once a day, at least. But I want you to have thought about that post when you do it. If you're on, I don't know if the other ones have this, but on Facebook, there's a scheduling. Like you can schedule your posts. Sometimes I do. If I know I'm going to be busy, I'll schedule them. And then you can manage them and see, like, I might, like 7 a.m. is when I usually post my good morning. And then 3 hours later, 10 o'clock, I'll post something else, right? 10, 11, 12, 1. So there's no excuse for you not to do it. If let's say and most people are on Facebook. So let's just start there. And I'm sure we'll talk about this as we get a little bit more into the next course, but there are some tools that you can tie your Instagram to your Facebook to where that one posts on both platforms.
Right.
And we'll get into it, like I said, but right now, just pick one and be consistent with it. I want you to be consistent with that. That's your homework. For a whole week, you're going to post. And you're going to, when you do it this way and you start thinking about what do I represent, it'll become easy for you. I don't really even think about it that much anymore. It's a lot of times based on my mood, based on something that happened, and then I'll post it based on like random thoughts, very random. It gets me in trouble sometimes too because people think, "Were you talking about me?" I don't know. Does it sound like it?
Right.
But it's random, and it could be inspired by something they did. But I can't, how you interpret that. That doesn't have anything to do with me. So, yeah. So there's a homework.
So post. The other thing, I want to run back up here really quickly and say this: community rules. So we've done several weeks of homework, and we want to make sure that we are making those comments and engaging in the school because, one, you get more points and you get to move up and unlock all sorts of great stuff. But just as important, your experience is good for the whole community. It's good for you to share that whole experience that you experienced because someone may be experiencing that same challenge. Someone may need that same inspiration, and we all feed off of each other. So I just want to emphasize that the homework is very important in and of itself, and it's also doubly important to share it from one to many.
Hmm. That's true. Very true.
All right, Robin. Well, this has been a wonderful session again. As usual, we've had 4 sessions, and next week we'll have our fifth and final session before we continue the advanced training as we go forward. Anything else that you would like to say before we wrap up?
Just make a point to do it. Like you got to take that first step. So,
Let's do it.
yeah, just do it.
All right, Rob. Thank you so very much for taking the time out with us, and we will talk next week.
All right. See you next week.
See you next week.